The House of Echoes. The house stands tall, a peculiar edifice with an articulated skeleton. It shifts forward, leaning into curiosity one creaky step at a time, while the attic looms over the front porch as if questioning its very existence. Its cyclops eye, a round window, reflects the flutter of grass, the swaying cottonwoods, and a man in a faded raincoat, flanked by two oversized duffel bags. Beneath that eye, it might be easy to project one's own insecurities onto the figure in the reflection. After all, there's nothing new about the notion of seeing oneself in a mirror, a sentiment too often written off as cliché. The support beams resemble rib bones, lending an eerie but inviting atmosphere to the cavernous porch. The door, a rectangular shadow, beckons me, and as I pass through its threshold, I momentarily relish the sensation of being enveloped, as though the house itself were welcoming me inside. I retrieve my notebook from the pocket of my raincoat and jot down, "The house has an articulated skeleton." A touch mundane, perhaps. This isn't particularly vibrant. I close the notebook, still aware that the title scrawled on its cover hints at words yet to be crafted, a story still in the wings. The origin of my flight from the chaos of my life can be traced back to a simple remark made while I was getting dressed. Oliver, who had become far too accustomed to my daily routine, cracked a joke upon reading my hastily chosen title aloud, suggesting I make it into a t-shirt. That innocent quip struck a nerve, not out of meanness, but because it lay bare an uncomfortable truth. I smirk, or perhaps scowl, as I recall the moment when I shattered his guitar in a fit of anger, the remnants strewn across the polished hardwood floor. I had hurried to Anna's couch afterward, thankful for her offer to house-sit while she retreated to her own brief escape. Her illness became a convenient excuse for extending my stay. For a moment I pause, shaking off the negativity that threatens to overshadow this initially enchanting space. I stand tall, adopting the air of a resident rather than a guest, and step further into the house, indulging in the daydream that I am a genuine writer. With a dramatic flourish, I twirl beneath the pewter chandelier hanging above the staircase, its candlesticks dripping like melted dreams. I reach out to touch a piece of wax, bringing it to my nose to savor the scent before pocketing it, yet another token from this strange place. The house holds a collection of mirrors along the corridor. Each an addition bestowed by various members of Anna's timeshare group. Every glass reflects a different side of me as I traverse toward the kitchen, where walls and molding gleam with ornate oddities, tiny faces that seem to scream silently beneath a delicate veneer. I can't resist tracing my fingertip along one grim mouth, surprised by the depth of its depression. The kitchen is a simpler affair, adorned with whitewashed walls and a modest fridge. I begin the task of stocking it with food, my assorted gas station haul flowing into its depths. I hesitate, recalling how often I've overindulged in junk food before, eyeing a bag of pizza-flavored snacks. Surely, I wouldn't spend the next 2 months indulging mindlessly, but it's hard to resist. The table stretches before me, its vast surface ready to host untold stories, and I imagine my pages sprawled out over it like a feast prepared for an eager imagination. Oliver had always preferred the pristine countertop for his cooking, grumbling when I obscured it with my clutter. On my birthday, he had persevered, crafting a delicate handmade pasta that he bragged about much too often. As I tear into my snacks, crunching loudly, I suddenly feel an overwhelming urge to escape the confines of this table, to avoid being seduced back into pursuing dreams lost in the mundanity of life. I refuse to be lured back in. I declare to the silence. The table stands unmoving, leaving me feeling silly for attempting to animate an inanimate object. The pressure of my thoughts compel me to move, so I grab my duffel bags and hoist them up the stairs one at a time, dragging with them the weight of my past. At the foot of an imposing four-poster bed, I dare to reach beneath the bed's skirt. Layers of dust yield numerous books, wondering what secrets they hide within their pages. But it's work time. I've arrived with purpose, and I need to refocus. I unzip my largest duffel, pulling out a heavy manuscript, its pages bearing my unfinished thoughts. Time to breathe new life into you, I assert, flipping it open. The first page is a glaring expanse of emptiness, a reminder of my stagnant creativity. Hours tick by as I wrestle with inadequacies that leap off the pages. I scribble notes in my notebook, capturing inspiration as it flows, particularly when it comes to my main character, a vibrant, adventurous figure named Ophelia whose wild spirit captivates me. The whimsical story unfolds, filled with moments of unexpected discovery and emotion, but suddenly, a storm roars outside, the wind wreaking havoc against the windows. I take a moment to pause, steeling myself against the unsettling noise that encroaches upon my fragile focus. Coffee in hand, I retreat back towards my workspace, opting to sidestep the lights as I navigate the house. Reflective surfaces warp my figure in a dance of distortion, each mirror exhibiting fragments of my identity until one shape, glowing with familiarity, draws my attention. It's Ophelia, framed within the glass, her visage imbued with life. I can scarcely believe my eyes, and as I reach to touch the glass, she gestures for me to come closer. "Ophelia?" I whisper, and she nods, the movement igniting warmth within. I jerk back in surprise as she fades from sight. Confusion fills me as I stumble away, grappling with the reality of what just transpired. In the early hours of the morning, I emerge refreshed, armed with clarity. No longer a spectator to the storm, I understand my story must twist and turn. Characters deserve better endings than the ones they've been given, and so I toss the flawed pages into the fireplace, letting them simmer into ash while I formulate a new plot. But even as I rewrite, the house, a silent witness, calls to me for answers. I wander through the rooms, seeking guidance among walls adorned with peculiar designs, but no response comes. I finish my meager breakfast, the manuscript glaring at me from across the table, judging my every thought. Wasting no time, I retrieve my phone, desperate to grasp the outside world. "Lydia. Are you okay?" The sound of concern greets me, a rush of familiarity. "I need to know," I respond, cautiously. "How long did you know?" "About your feelings for women?" She seems relieved, her voice calm. "You've left clues all along the way, just needed the right person to notice." As we dove deeper into discussion, liberation washed over me, as though the house, the dormant keeper of secrets, had finally stirred, urging me to embrace every part of my identity. In this strange dwelling filled with echoes, I understood, within its walls, both stories and dreams lived, not just my own, but everyone who had ever wandered through. The conversation with Lydia flowed like sunlight breaking through clouds. We discussed the past and our intertwining lives, where her laughter blended with soft reflections of love and anxiety. The echo of my own realizations reverberated through the rooms of the house, shifting the air as I embraced truths that had long lingered in the shadows. "I knew there was something special about you," Lydia said, her voice glowing with warmth. "You've always been so drawn to stories, and not just the ones in books. You find meaning in the unsaid." "Yes," I admitted, staring at the growing pile of crumpled papers in the fireplace. "But I've been scared to confront it. It feels so different now, realer, almost. My work was part of it, part of me, but so was the fear of the inevitable rejection that comes with any truth. Rejection is part of love, no matter how it looks. It's teaching you about what you're willing to fight for as a writer, as a friend, and maybe as more." She let the words hang in the air, like leaves slowly drifting to the ground. I sat quietly, contemplating. You'd think after everything with Oliver, I'd have a clearer vision of what I want. Yet sometimes it feels like I'm writing with a fogged lens. Did I really love him, or did I just love the comfort of the familiarity? Maybe it was both. It was a chapter, and now you're ready to write a new one, right? I nodded, aware that each conversation had always led me to this house, a vessel both haunting and liberating in its ability to reveal what I had long kept hidden. The house changes with me, you know? Every corner feels alive, as if it's reacting to every realization I wrestle with. Maybe it's trying to guide you, Lydia offered, her voice softening. Has it ever occurred to you that you're not simply a guest but a part of this story? Suddenly, the wind howled outside, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I felt a ripple of something, a shimmer. Flickering shadows stirred at the edges of my vision. Curiosity churned within me, and I turned my thoughts back to the house's interior. What if exploring its secrets is key to mine? Go on then, Lydia said with a playful nudge in her tone. Just don't get lost in it. I smiled at her playful concern, but a pulse of determination surged through me, urging me to explore more deeply. This house had stories to tell and emotions to unravel. I set my phone down, a newfound focus guiding me. I'll be right back, I said, my feet already propelled toward the staircase. Up I went, carefully navigating the floorboards, pausing at the mirrors that had first welcomed me with curious reflections. I brushed a finger along the edge of the closest one. The glass seemed to hum with energy. Was it just my imagination? In that moment, I felt it again, a beckoning from the house. I had to venture into the depths of the attic, where shadows danced like memories just out of reach. As I ascended to that higher realm, the air grew cooler, rich with the scent of dust and history. I reached the attic door, hesitating just long enough to collect my breath. I pushed it open to reveal a sprawling space filled with boxes, forgotten treasures, and an ambience thick with unearthed stories. The light from the small window illuminated the dust motes swirling in the air, giving the place a dreamlike quality. I stepped inside, overwhelmed by the feeling that these walls held a shared solitude, just like I often did. Memories flickered like the candlelight in the corner, illuminating pieces of lives once lived, heirlooms, trinkets, and beloved items soaked in nostalgia. At the far end of the room, a large trunk called to me with its faded leather exterior. I approached, unbuckling the clasps and lifting the lid to reveal its contents, a collection of yellowing letters tied together with a frayed ribbon. My heart raced as I gently pulled the letters free, intrigued by their remnants of stories long gone. I began to sift through them, my fingers dancing along the inked pages and their sepia-toned histories. The words spoke of love letters, heartfelt confessions, dreams of the future, and whispers of hopes that had either flourished or faded. It felt strangely intimate, as if I were peeking into a romance that had never been mine, yet resonated deeply within my own journey. Overwhelmed by the feeling of connection to something bigger, I brightened at the thought of these words influencing my work. I yearned to weave their essence into my writing, to create characters who breathed life through nuanced emotions, just like those in the attic. Just then, a rush of energy tugged at my heart. "Ophelia," I murmured, understanding that she too was woven from the fabric of dreams and quiet truths. She was my muse, a guiding spirit within the chaos. She would be the embodiment of these discoveries, my remedy to the sorrow that had shadowed my creativity. That thought illuminated my mind like a flash of inspiration, reigniting the spark I had lost. I gathered the letters into my arms, feeling the weight of their histories mingling with my fresh intentions. As I left the attic, I felt the house settling back into its familiar rhythm, the thrum of energy echoing throughout its bones. Each step I took reverberated like the pulse of a heart, and I couldn't help but relate it to my own. I rushed back to the kitchen table, where my manuscript lay waiting, ready to be breathed into anew. With the letters opened beside my laptop, I began to write again, making space for the characters that I had let lie dormant. I felt Lydia's presence in the room, a supportive force urging me on, an anchor in a sea of creativity. Days blurred into nights as I poured my heart onto the pages, intertwining my journey with Ophelia's, weaving letters into her adventures, embracing the complexity and depth of her experience. And as I wrote, the house thrummed, its whispers merging with my words, guiding the ink with its ethereal cadence. No longer just a backdrop, this structure pulsed with a life of its own, inviting me to excavate and explore the very essence of my identity alongside Ophelia's journey. Every creak and groan of its bones bore witness to my revelations, becoming not just a house, but a sanctuary for my truth and creativity. It was as if we were co-conspirators, joining forces to unveil stories long overlooked, defying the constraints that once hid them in shadows. Life outside continued its relentless march, but inside, I felt an awakening. Every room became a canvas, every corner a muse beckoning me forth, echoing a sentiment that transcended the pages and etched itself into my heart. Artistry, love, and authenticity will always find their way to the surface, illuminating even the darkest spaces. As the days rolled on, the house became an extension of my own being, and I thrived within its walls. Each morning, I opened my notebook with a sense of renewed purpose, allowing the echoes of the past to inspire me, filling my pages with Ophelia's whimsical journey and my own spirit intertwined. My words transformed into a tapestry woven from strength, vulnerability, and unabashed love. I immersed myself in Ophelia's world, a spirit who, like me, had become lost in the unrelenting pressures of life, yet longed to embrace the warmth of love and acceptance. With each character I developed, I felt a flicker of liberation from my own fears and insecurities. The letters I had found in the attic, filled with confessions and dreams, bled into the dialogues and dilemmas of my protagonist, giving my story a richness that had lain dormant for far too long. But what began as a solitary effort soon blossomed into a communal venture. I invited Lydia to join me in this creative refuge, sharing not just moments of my writing but inviting her insights, her laughter, and her unique grasp of the narrative threads. Together, we allowed our voices to spiral and intertwine, crafting a deeper connection through every write and rewrite. As we shared late-night cups of tea and excited discussions over plot twists, the house thrummed around us, as if it were alive and engaged in our collaborative energy. The kitchen table transformed into a workspace buzzing with ideas, where notes and half-finished drafts decorated its expansive surface. In those moments of shared creativity, we emerged with something more than just a manuscript. We nurtured an understanding of one another that unfolded organically, and I could sense my feelings for her blossoming into something deeper. "Lydia," I said one evening as we wrapped up a particularly exhilarating session, "this feels different. Writing with you is like creating art together, but it's more than that. You bring something to this story that I didn't know was missing." She smiled, her eyes twinkling with excitement. "We're building a world, Lydia. It's not just Ophelia anymore, it's us too. It's a celebration of who we are." And it was true. I saw our quirks, our fears, our shared laughter, and a million unspoken connections seeping through the words we crafted together. The characters became allegories for ourselves as they laughed, cried, and navigated the complexities of love. One crisp morning, as autumn began to weave its magic throughout the trees, I stood with Lydia in front of the large window looking out into the golden fields stretching beyond the house. "What if we share this with others?" I asked, a hint of hesitation breaking the surface. "What do you mean?" She replied, her brow sweetly furrowed in concentration. "I mean, what if we publish it? Bring our story, Ophelia's journey, into the world? It might be our way of breaking old patterns and showing that it is okay to embrace love in all its forms." Lydia turned toward me, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Yes." I chuckled, fueled by the inspiration of the house. "This place seems to have a purpose, to encourage creation and connection. Why not let it help us create our own futures?" Her excitement radiated through me, and we spent hours mapping the steps needed to share our manuscript with the world. With the looming presence of the house behind us, it felt as if we were setting in motion a story worth telling, not just for ourselves but for anyone grappling with their identity and the intricacies of love. Weeks passed in a whirlwind of revisions, submissions, and moments of uncertain anticipation. The manuscript still lay unpolished and raw, requiring care, spirit, and attention, and my addiction to the process became evident. I was finally writing the story of not just me but of us, unearthing layers I had buried under insecurities. Until one fated evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, we received a message that changed everything. A publishing company was interested in our work and wanted to propel it into the world. Lydia and I celebrated with laughter, tears, and promise, the birth of not just a book, but a new chapter in our lives. The house, once a sanctuary for solitude, now echoed with our triumph, its walls reverberating with the energy we channeled into our creation. As the season shifted, the publication day arrived. We watched our beloved manuscript transformed into a tangible book, its spine adorned with our names, the cover embellished with a design that celebrated our journey. It stood tall among the other titles, ready to tell its story of love, identity, and the power of echoing voices in a world often too silent. That night, we hosted a small gathering at the house to celebrate its release with those who'd supported us along the way, our family, our friends, and the vibrant community that had emerged through our journey. Each laugh, each toast, and each story shared was another thread woven into the fabric of what we had built. Later, as everyone filtered out, I stood by the large window, lost in thought. The moonlight painted silver streaks across the grass, and I could feel the house humming softly, a melodic acknowledgement of all we had achieved. Lydia approached, her presence magnetic as she leaned against the wall beside me. "You know," she started softly, "this place felt special from the beginning, like it was waiting for us to uncover its soul. And it was waiting for us to see our own." "Yes," I whispered, looking out at the swirling silhouettes beyond the glass. "It feels like it has always been more than just a house. It is our canvas, our safe haven." Her hand brushed against mine, and in that small touch, I felt a spark, a connection that transcended the boundaries of words. We both knew, in that moment, that we had discovered something profound, untouched by fear or hesitation. As her gaze met mine, I leaned closer and whispered, "I think we're writing the beginning of the rest of our lives." Together, we stood in a house filled with echoes, once solitary and silent, now brimming with stories of love, adventure, and self-discovery. The house warmly enveloped us, acknowledging the new chapters that awaited, telling us that we were only just beginning. With Ophelia as our guide through the pages of life and love, we stepped forward into a future ripe with possibility, one where every echo pulsed with the promise of our unashamed truth. Together, we would continue to write, to explore, and to leap into the embrace of the unknown.